we need to talk about the best books I read this summer. Okay, so for me, I'm going to count summer as from the second week of May to the second week of August. So halfway, the last half of May to the beginning of August. Those weeks, I read 17 books. 11 of them were audiobooks and 6 of them were physical books. I believe some of them were a combination, but that's the stats. So 11 audio, 6 physical to make 17 books total. Let's get into it. I'll be doing this by genre. I don't know how many genres I have, but I'll probably put a list here. We're going to be starting with fiction, specifically historical fiction. So these are not in order of what I read, so we're going to go by genre. So for historical fiction, I read The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, which I rated 3.5 stars. It was a very moving read. I think it was an audiobook for me, so I feel like even though it was an audiobook, it had a little bit of slow pacing, but I feel like changed the way that I think, and I want to read more books like it. To literary fiction, I read The Summer Pact, which it was an audiobook and I did not enjoy it. I gave it 2.5 stars. The characters were amazing. I loved the story of it and what they did, but the ending felt wrong and there was like no chemistry. For the ending does not work for me because there was a lack of chemistry. It didn't work. I didn't like it. Moving on, I read If Cats Disappear from the World, which I rated 3.5 stars. It was a very good book. I think I really enjoyed the concepts of the book the most. I have horror fiction for the last subsection of fiction, and I read Diavola, which I was a little worried when I picked this up as an audio read because I don't tend to like horror. I have an overactive imagination. I creep myself out if I read a horror book. And this book had a lot. It had animal abuse, child loss, murder, sexual content, self-harm. It had a laundry list of horrifying things. And it felt real. It was so believable, but it was so good. And I don't like horror, but this I was able to digest and really enjoy. And in a good way, I feel like this book has haunted me. Moving on, we are in our mystery section. I'm really excited to talk about this. I have been wanting to talk about this for weeks. In my mystery section are 2 books from Lucy Foley. The first I did a short on because I was astonished at how good The Midnight Feast was. It was a 5 stars. It was the best mystery book I had ever read because the characters were amazing and the setting and it was so good. It felt so real. It was the best audiobook I'd ever listened to. I would recommend that book as an audiobook. It blew my mind. And then I quickly picked up a few weeks later another audiobook, and it was called The Guest List. Another mystery. I've been leaning into mysteries this summer. I don't know why. And the moment I didn't look at who it was written by, I just read a short bullet of the bio. Very excited for it. Picked it up and started listening to it. And I was like, wow, this sounds almost identical to that Lucy Foley book I listened to a few weeks ago and I loved. So hopefully this is good. But then I was like, this sounds exactly like the writing is the same. Listening to it. So I went and looked. It's from the same author. So I gave it a 2 stars. The Guest List was, I think, nowhere near as good as The Midnight Feast. But it was still very good. I really liked a lot of the characters. The story was really great. I don't know. I think, and then the ending didn't feel satisfying. I was like, oh, interesting. All of the characters had a very, very rich stories, and they all tied together, and it's very beautiful. And I really think Lucy's an amazing writer. But I feel like your writing should sound a little bit more different if you're going to write in the same genre. Which, if I had to guess, this is mysteries for genre, and she does an amazing job. But because of reading the guest list, I moved The Midnight Feast down from 5 stars to 4 stars. It's still an amazing read. I think both are really good. I would recommend both. But I think The Midnight Feast was a little better. I like the cultural depth behind that. She adds a lot of depth to her characters and her stories, and I thought both were really, really good. So next we have a few different sections with just one book in them. First, we're going to have YA, in which I read Between the Water and the Woods. I gave it 4 stars. It was so good. The romance and the chemistry and the characters, it was amazing, and I will definitely be recommending this to any like younger readers. It was a little slow paced, and that was the main reason I didn't give it 5 stars, as well as I don't plan on keeping it. I plan on giving it away to somebody else, which I'm not sure if that means it's better because I'm wanting to give it away, or like I'm not treasuring it, but I plan on giving it to somebody. But it was a really good YA read. Moving on, we have sci-fi, in which I didn't realize this book was sci-fi, but I guess that's what it's categorized as. So I read Sunrise on the Reaping. I gave it 4.5 stars, and it was the best book that I read this summer. I think the Hunger Games series is my favorite series. I love all the little callbacks and the connections throughout all of the books. I love the characters. Haymitch is my favorite Hunger Games character. I'm beyond excited for the movie. I'm ready. Like, I am dying to get another book from this series. I don't know who we would follow. We've gotten so many books from this series. I would read anything. And I beg this author, please write more. I will read anything you write. So, yeah. Next we have biography. I guess I didn't realize this was, yeah, I did. This is biography. So I read Vincent and Theo. This was such an amazing read. It felt real. It felt like I was a part of the family, of the Van Gogh family. It felt amazing. It felt real. I cannot believe that the writer was able to write this story from what they did. It's based on letters from Vincent and Theo throughout their lifetime, like actual letters, and the book feels so real. It doesn't feel like you're reading letters because you're not. The author did such an amazing job. If I didn't say it, I gave it 4 stars. I loved it. And it was one of the better books that I read this summer. So, we have 3 sections left. So we're going to go into my biggest section yet, fantasy, which I would have said is my favorite for the longest time, but that we're not going to get into that today. Anyways, fantasy, one of my favorite genres. First, we have A Game of Thrones, which I have been dying to watch the series for so long, and then when the audiobook popped up, I went, why not? Because if you're a reader, you normally want to read it and then watch it. And as an audiobook reader, I was like, absolutely. And it was like 37 hours. But I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It was addictive to listen to and to read. I plan on reading the rest of the series. It was one of the better books I read this summer. I'm dying to buy the box set of these books because the covers are so gorgeous. I'm obsessed with them. The only reason I didn't give this book 5 stars is because it made me a little more uncomfortable than I would like to. There was some sexism, there was explicit content, there was abuse, there was, but it's Game of Thrones. We expected that. But I feel like I can't, if it made me cringe and feel uncomfortable, I feel like I can't give it 5 stars. Because I feel like you can be sexist and not make me uncomfortable. So, next in fantasy, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I gave 4 stars. I thought this was such a good book. The ending was satisfying, but at the same time, I wanted more, which is good, but that's why I docked it. Like, it wasn't like with the Hunger Games where I'm like craving for more from this series. It's kind of like that, but it's like, I feel like for the ending to be 100% satisfying, we needed more of this character. And it was one of my favorite characters of the whole book. I wish, we kept getting hints about this character, and I was like, oh, give me more. And we didn't really get any more. And I feel like it was necessary for the ending to be satisfying. to hear more about that character. We didn't. So I was pretty disappointed. I think if a second book of this series, I don't think there's another one coming out, but if another one came out and we got to hear some more about it, I think this one would be considered satisfying. But it's not, because I felt like we needed like a sequel. Next, I have A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic, which I gave 3.5 stars. It just really lacked chemistry for me. It felt very YA. It just lacked chemistry. It felt like more of like a friendship relationship than a romance one, and they're supposed to be like madly in love. For the last of the fantasy section, I'm going to touch on Where Did You Go? I gave this book 3 stars, and I had really high expectations. I love the characters in this series. This book was so hard to read. I don't like, I guess not hard to read. Like, it was a very fast read. It's very, I think, good paced. Read it fairly fast. However, this is a spicy series, and there were moments where I was like, spice? Now? We're dying. Like, are you serious? Like, and it felt like a lot of it was just not necessary. And so a lot of the spice scenes just seemed annoying. I wanted more out of the story. I didn't just want spice. Now that we're really connected to these characters, I just wanted more. And since I read this book, the 4th one came out. The 4th book in the series came out, and I believe it's the last in the series. And it follows different characters, kind of. And I don't care. And I didn't pick it up, and I didn't purchase it. I haven't read it. I don't know if I plan on reading it. It feels wrong not to, but it follows characters that I don't care about at all. So I gave it 3 stars because I was really, the ending was satisfying. I was really looking forward to the 4th book, and then when I read the bio for the 4th book, I was like, oh, no. So I don't know. I do have all of the special edition sprayed edge beautiful books. I didn't buy the 4th one in that one, and so I don't know what I plan on doing, but I'm not satisfied. But that is the end of fantasy. It is time for our last 2 sections. We have romance. I'm very shocked. I only read 1 book that was classified as like just romance. And it was Till Summer Do Us Part. And I don't know how to explain how I feel about this book, because it was 3 stars, and I would recommend it to a friend, but only if they were really comfortable with a lot of spice. I am not. This book made me uncomfortable. It made me want to stop reading it. However, the characters were so good. I needed to know what happened to them. I needed to know. The storyline was so good. And I needed to know. I plan on giving this book to somebody else. In the book, the characters go through some therapy sessions together. I learned so much about communication from this book. I gave it 3 stars just because it made me so uncomfortable. I plan on gifting it to a friend, but I like it is so spicy. I'm going to have to check with that friend and be like, hey, are you comfortable with the highest level of spice I've ever read? Because I wasn't, and I don't want to keep the book. But I cannot deny the characters were amazing. The story was amazing. I loved the characters, and the quality of spice was really great. I was just uncomfortable. So, moving on, we have personal growth. First, I read a Single Cam Video Production. I read this for in preparation for one of my college classes this semester. I gave it 3 stars. Really good quality content in it. I just didn't really like the way it was structured. It felt like there was a lot of repetition. Some of the sections should have been grouped differently. I feel that way with a lot of college textbooks. I feel like there's a lot of repetition, which is what you want because you need to get it into your head. However, more pages, more money, bigger textbook. Because you don't see itty bitty textbooks. You don't. And on my journey reading personal development books, personal growth books, all of them, I keep questioning, like, why is it this long? It doesn't need to be this long. It could have been a lot shorter. You got the point across earlier. If it was shorter, I'd read it more than once, and then I could get the point across. So I don't get a lot of. Anyways, next in the personal growth section, I read The Anxious Generation, which I gave 4 stars. The only reason I gave it 4 stars is because I don't really feel like this book is for me, and it felt fairly long. But I feel that way about all self-help books. This book was really meant for, I think, like government officials, parents, school administration, teachers. I think it's an amazing read, especially as someone from the anxious generation. It made me feel validated a bit about like the struggle of addiction with your phone and social media and self-esteem growing up. As someone who was the subject of this book, it felt good to read it. I kept wanting to talk to people about it, and I was like, I feel really annoying about telling people to get off their phone. But and then I recently heard that my old high school is banning phones, and I was like, oh my god, that's so good, because all of these reasons, and now I know, and I'm better educated about it. So it's a very, very good read. I would recommend it to anyone, honestly anybody. I think it was a really good read. I don't really know what to say now that I've covered all 17 books that I read. It was a good summer.